Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are on our road show continuing up and down the state. We're in Gilroy today in the Bay Area, and we are speaking with Greg Caput. He is the chair of the Board of Supervisors in Santa Cruz County, which, sir, needs to get a gold medal. Because if you look at the Water Conservation Report for July 2015, Santa Cruz jurisdictions, they're off the chart. The city of Santa Cruz had a conservation standard of 8%. Its savings in July, 30%. Your hometown of Watsonville had a savings target of 20%, and you met that target with flying colors. What is going right?
People are cooperating, and people are recognizing how serious the drought situation is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if we get a good rain, we get an El Nino,
right.
that is going to help a lot, and then we also have to worry about flooding.
We'll talk about that momentarily.
But everybody is cooperating, from the farmers to the individual residents of Watsonville. We have a lot of farmland, and that uses up a lot of water.
Right.
And they're
but
following.
Too much?
Pardon me?
Too much water? You know, there's this sense among some, especially in urban areas, that individuals, residents are bearing the brunt of water conservation, where farmers and agriculture, they're not suffering. I'm not saying I agree with that,
sure.
But that's kind of the ethos among some.
I hear that a lot, but in this drought situation, the farmers have been great.
Right.
The times that they're watering is towards the late afternoon and evening,
right,
rather than in the morning when it's easier for them. But they're actually putting it on at night. They don't have to water as much. There's less evaporation. Some of them are voluntarily have fallow land,
right,
which is taking some of the crops off the land, but it's also good for the soil. Others are going with rotating crops. Some crops don't make as much as others, but if you rotate some crops that they're putting in, like alfalfa,
mm-hmm,
when they're done with that, they can tiller that back into the
right, soil,
and that's good for the strawberries the next year. And we also have, some are growing, actually putting in apple trees, which we used to have.
Right.
Once trees are established, they don't require as much water as every year strawberries.
Right.
So we're getting a balance there. It's still strawberries, raspberries, and row crops are the #1 commodity. Of Santa Cruz County, there's probably $600 million of revenue that comes into the county because of agriculture, and about 70% plus is South County, which is my area.
Of course.
And so it's very important.
But let me ask you, even though the numbers in terms of jobs and economic impact of the drought have not been as sour as they could have been,
right,
because of effective irrigation and other steps like you suggest, are your constituents still feeling the pain of the drought?
Okay, if we're talking about the residents, I would say yes. I've talked to them. They're cutting down, of course, on how long you take
right,
a shower. They're very careful about not not washing the car as much
right,
as they want. The one that hurts the most is not watering the lawn as much as they did, and some are not watering at all. I really hate to see people take out lawns and put in artificial this and that, because everything natural adds oxygen to the air.
It's so interesting you say that, because there are folks that have talked about the fact that the elimination of green can have a detrimental impact on health. I mean, we need greenery for that oxygen CO2 exchange.
You bet.
We also know that turf can get very hot. And if there's a lot of turf, you can generate a lot of heat, and you get almost a microclimate from the turf.
Just take an example. If you were to cut down a lot of trees in order to save on water, let's say they're younger trees, older trees are established.
Right.
Okay, we lose what? We lose shade. And when you lose shade, you have more evaporation coming out of the ground. So we're losing moisture.
And you also think about other unintended consequences. I learned recently that one of the ways we are saving water, especially in residence, is we are not flushing as much.
Right.
You know, if it's yellow, let it mellow.
Right.
Okay. Well, the challenge with that is that solids are not being flushed down all the way through the piping, and there are issues with regard to solids being jammed in the sewer pipes.
That they call that scouring effect.
Right.
If even with the low flow toilets and things like that, you're losing some of that scouring of the water from each flush that's cleaning out the sides of the pipe.
Right.
But
is that a problem in Santa Cruz County?
I don't think so right now. I really don't. And when you're in an emergency, you have to weigh the benefits versus the burdens. And the burden right now is the biggest one is the drought, and the benefit is cutting back.
Right.
And
I want to speak about this winter, which could be a very wet one. Not clear if this El Nino that we're hearing about, the gigantic historic El Nino, will come as far north as Santa Cruz County. If it will even come to Southern California, we don't know. For argument's sake, let's say we do see a significant El Nino. When we've had past El Ninos, especially after droughts, we can see dramatic flooding because the soil is not able to absorb all the water that's come in. In your hometown of Watsonville, I know there is a river called the Pajaro River.
Right.
And that river has experienced some serious flooding about 20 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, 1995.
Okay, so talk to us about that river and what you have been working on quite diligently over the last several years to try to stem the potential flooding of it in the future.
You bet. The biggest concern when I got into office was a plan for what's called bench excavation of the Pajaro River, which was taking out 300,000 cubic yards of sediment that has built up over the years in the Pajaro River. And in order to do that, it required a lot of money, and we had to get by all the environmental concerns.
What was the reason to remove the sediment?
Okay, the sediment increases the flow of water, and the capacity of the river to make that water go all the way down to the ocean where it's supposed to.
So the removal allows that.
The removal allowed it. And it increases the flow of and the capacity by something like over 5,000 gallons per second.
And is that a net
storm.
positive in your mind?
That's a big positive. It's not the big solution. It's not the 100-year plan, but it takes some of the pressure off when you're talking about a potential big rain coming. So we, instead of having a 100-year plan, we probably have increased the flow of water and the potential. We've lowered quite a bit the potential of a flood for the next, let's say, 12 years.
Well, what about a potential widening of the river?
Well, the excavation, years ago they called it dredging.
Okay.
Dredging brings to mind down the middle of the river. With the excavation, we did widen it.
I see.
The sediment was building up along the banks.
So you're looking to excavate?
We did excavate.
Okay.
We took away 300,000 cubic yards over a 3-year period. That was a big breakthrough with the Army Corps of Engineers, the California Fish and Game, environmental groups, residents concerned.
So what's next? What do you hope to see next?
Okay, real quick, but that's the reason that was so important, and we did reforestation and we preserved the habitat in the middle of the river.
Right.
And when all that passed, we were able to go forward. Okay, with the 100-year plan, which is the one that would benefit everybody, all the residents, and really have a great plan in place. It's over $200 million.
And what would the 100-year plan do?
The 100-year plan, not in every area though, it's easy to remember, it would widen the river on the Monterey side and the Santa Cruz side by 100 feet on either side, but not in the entire river, in certain reaches of the river.
When you come back, we'll talk more about that?
You bet, absolutely.
His name is Greg Caput. He is a supervisor in Santa Cruz County. We are in Gilroy today. This is Charter Local Edition.